I just wanted to welcome everyone. We appreciate everyone tuning in. This is the very first episode of The Beat of Esports, hosted by Jack and Connor. And we have two very special guests as well. We got Dan Pulse and Kevin Carter, the two owners of CarterPulse. And yeah, we're just going to be interviewing Connor today just to really introduce things to everyone else that may not know him. Just introduce more faces of Carter Pulse and things like that, just so people can really understand that this is a well-oiled machine. So just a little bit about Connor. He's 22 years old. He's from Michigan. He graduated from Southern New Hampshire University in business administration. He worked in accounting for a little. He's been in esports for a while. And yeah, he's new to Carter Pulse for about 6 months now. And the very first thing I have to ask Connor is, how did you get the name Mr. Esports? I gotta know.
It's nothing too special. Let's see. My first gamer tag was Undead Socks. That I got that from the randomly generated Xbox One, and then I was Mr. Duplicity for a while. But when I started doing more business work after high school, I had to find something that was a bit more professional than an Xbox gamer tag, and so I was just thinking of different ones that might sound cool, and I found Mr. Esport, and it wasn't taken, so I took it instantly. After that one, I go by Connor on most things, but I'm still very happy I was able to nab that Twitter username. It's just a real pain trying to get it to match up on other platforms.
Yeah, no, I can bet. Yeah, you definitely got the OG right away. Um, yeah, so jumping into everything about esports. So how'd you get into it, and what really made you want to get into it, and yeah, just give us your history.
Yeah, so I mean, typical story. I've been playing video games since I was really young. One of my deep core memories is when I was 5 and I saved up all my birthday money to get a GameCube, and then later on I got a Game Boy Advance. So like the Mario games and Pokemon were my favorite coming up. But I specifically remember when I was late elementary school, my parents wouldn't let me play M-rated games. They were very strict on that, and I'd go over to my buddy's house and play Halo all the time. This was, I think it was Halo 1 or Halo 2, and then I was finally able to convince him to let me play Call of Duty. And something about me is I get that extra motivation. People tell me I can't do something, so when I finally got that opportunity, I played Call of Duty nonstop, and it was playing and playing after years. And eventually, once I was a freshman in high school, I discovered the competitive side because I was playing Black Ops 2 with one of my buddies, and we discovered the league play section, and that's how I got exposed to like Call of Duty championships and the historic Black Ops 2 run. And then next year when Ghost came out, I met more people in high school that were playing, and so we made our own team. And boy, we were awful. We were so bad. Our record on game battles was like 12-36. We were just lucky to try and like make it close. And really, after that, I got exposed to other esports. I specifically remember watching the League World Championships in, I think it was season 3, season 4, somewhere around there, and getting to see esports at that stage, at like that big of a venue, was so cool because I didn't even think that was possible. And so after that, I kind of got involved with what I like to call kind of like the basement orgs, where they're kind of running out of their mom's basement, little budget type thing. And so I was playing on my Call of Duty team for teams that didn't pay. It was just like, oh, cool, I'm on a team. And specifically, I remember how excited I was when I got a Cinch affiliate partnership my freshman year, because I thought it was prestigious, when in reality, it was more just fill out the form, and if you had enough Twitter followers, which I did, you get the code, and I thought that was super cool. But once the following game came out, I think it was Advanced Warfare, I got left behind by all my friends because they were so much better at the game than I was. I'm not one that's great at games. I love the business side, but playing them, not really my that's not my best area. I love playing them. I'm just not great. And so I had to get involved in esports in some other fashion. And so I did what a lot of other people do, decide, oh, these orgs are doing it, I can do it, but just not pay people. And so that's what I started doing in high school, was make these little teams, and I'd cover guys' entry fees, and it was just fun to run the orgs. And that gradually grew and grew over the years. And that's how I ended up meeting you guys. Essentially, was I kept wanting to get involved in the business side more and more and more, but it's very difficult to land a job for organizations because everybody wants to,
Right.
so many people can be pro players, and you got to find somewhere else to work if that's not you, which it wasn't me. And so I learned more about the agency side, and that's really kind of how I got into esports. Was I love the game, I love the scene behind it. It feels like sports, but in like the first 10 years, where you don't have to go to law school to become an agent necessarily, and you don't necessarily need to jump through all the hoops and know the right guy to get in with the team. Because when it comes to sports in the NFL, Jack, I know you work with the Jets, that's not an easy position to land.
Yeah.
And it's something that a lot of people are after, and there is that prestigious group of people that have been in it for the longest time. So esports for me, I see as a combination of sports, which I love, and video games in a unique new industry with loads of opportunity.
Oh yeah, tons of opportunity to grow. Pulse can really attest to that. We won't talk about that now, but Pulse obviously got everything going a couple years back with CarterPulse. But yeah, you kind of jumped into it, how you found CarterPulse and stuff like that. I gotta ask, who found who? Pulse? Did you message him, or did Connor reach out to CarterPulse? Do you remember?
Think he DM'd me.
Yeah.
I definitely.
Yeah. Yeah, I had it was actually a crazy coincidence because two of our clients, Sticks and Fishy, were staying at a team house in Pennsylvania, and I don't remember the exact city it was in, but I remember driving past the servers, and so my little brother knew somebody who knew those guys, and they needed one to fill the spot at the team house. And so I was driving all the way out there to drop him off, and we were taking turns driving back and forth. And at the time, I was applying for jobs and I couldn't find one. So I thought agency work sounded fun. It sounded super interesting and something I could do for a long time, because it is working with the players, not as much on the back end organizational side. So you get to make those, bigger announcements that are super cool and prestigious. And while we were driving there, I was trying to find these different agencies. Obviously, I knew a little bit about some of them, but when it came to like Evolved and Loaded and those ones, they weren't as hands-on with the community. It was much more of a back-end type thing, which, they have their reasons for doing that, but that's something that stood out about you guys. The reason I found CarterPulse was when I was searching, I found the articles written about Waffles and how Dan and Kevin, you guys helped get him unbanned. And when I ended up at the team house, I was talking to Sticks and Fishy for a little bit, and I realized that they worked for they were clients of you guys as well. And so on my way back from the drive, I shot Dan a message, and it was very much like, hey, you guys are doing great in Fortnite, but have you considered expanding? I don't know Fortnite very well, but I know a lot of other games pretty well, and I think I'd be able to help you guys with that. And that's kind of how I first got involved with Dan. I don't know what he thought some random guy messaging him on Twitter was going to do, but it ended up paying off pretty well for me.
Yeah, no, for sure. Just to give people a little bit deeper about you, so what do you specifically do for CarterPulse? What's your role, and who do you help manage, and what esports are you kind of overseeing?
Yeah, so I'm the director of talent operations, and currently I'm primarily working in Valorant. It was a space that, similar to why I like esports, it was new. Like Counter-Strike is one of my favorite esports, but it's been around for 12, 15 years now, and it's difficult to make an entry there. So when Valorant came out, nobody had a team yet. These players weren't represented yet unless they were coming over from Counter-Strike, and that's how I got involved in that space, and working with the guys over there has been wonderful. So I've done a couple I worked with a couple clients that are outside Valorant, mainly Call of Duty Mobile, a few of those, but currently I'm primarily focusing on Valorant and developing that department for us, as it has a very, very bright future. The viewership might not be there yet, but the investment and intention certainly is, and very excited for when it makes its way back to LAN, because it still kind of feels like the preseason, where you watch Counter-Strike and when you're watching it, you think, oh, the LANs, IEM Katowice, etc. But with Valorant, there hasn't been one yet. The first one officially is starting next week, Monday, but that doesn't have spectators yet. So it's a very bright and growing space with a lot of attention from a lot of orgs.
Yeah, no, I think everyone's eager to get back to that first LAN event after COVID, so we'll definitely be the first ones there. Yeah, just jumping into esports in general, I just wanted to ask you specifically, since you've kind of been in it since the jump, since when Call of Duty first started doing it and stuff like that. What do you think the most common myth about gaming is that you just want to debunk and let everyone know like that this is the future and stuff like that. What do you want to let people know, and just about esports in general, or even side of the side of management, you know?
Yeah, I think one of the biggest misconceptions about esports is when people get too involved in the is it a real sport dilemma, where personally, like, I don't think it's a sport. I think the definitions are very different. You don't consider chess a sport, but it's still a very competitive game. And I put esports in the same category as chess, but people kind of get lost in the weeds where, oh, it's just gamers sitting there playing video games all day. It must be a dream job to get paid that much money. But people don't realize how competitive this is. Take League of Legends, for example. It's public knowledge by Monte Cristo. He made a tweet last year that the average player salary is $425,000 in the NALCS. But there's only 10 teams. Minimum salary is 50,000 once you get to the academy level, but there's 10 teams, 50 players. The US player base is 150,000. You go over to China, the US has one server, China has 6 servers and something called a mega server, which is 3 times the size. So there's competition. People don't realize that these players, they're putting in 10 to 15 hour days. And you might think, oh, esports is great. I could do that. You know, I'm really good at Smash. I beat all my friends. But those people don't play the games for 12 plus hours every single day, months on end, where you can love whatever video game you're playing. You could be a pro at it, but eventually it's going to hit a time where it's like, this kind of feels like work. And if you don't have that passion and love for the game, you're not going to make it very far, because if you don't truly love it, you're going to get tired. You're going to get burnt out. You're not going to play as well when you're 10 hours in. And when you're going to a tournament, it's your third best of 5 for the day. So while it might not be as physically demanding as traditional sports, it's very competitive, and it's definitely not something where you can take lightly. And I've heard it many, many times where, oh, I was good back in the day, I should have gone pro. When in reality, they don't realize it's just as hard to go pro in esports as it is in traditional sports. Obviously, that depends on which game you're playing, but when you get to those tier 1 esports, when you've got like Fortnite, Valorant, Call of Duty, and games of those caliber, it is cutthroat. You don't get there unless you're some of the best and you practice and act accordingly. So it's not something to take lightly. And I think that's definitely something that a lot of people miss, where they think, oh, I'm talented, I can make it, but they might not realize how much work it actually takes.
Right. So what would you, I mean, Pulse and Kev, you can kind of jump in on this question too. So what would you say is a big stipulation with the management side that people might not understand? Because, I mean, this is all fresh, like within a couple years. Management companies haven't really been around too often. And what would you guys like to say to really not clear up the air, but just like there's definitely a big stipulation about management companies as a whole in esports. So if you guys just want to jump in on that topic, that'd be cool as well. So if you want to weigh in.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah. So the one thing I would say, which we tell probably every single client we talk to, or potential client that we talk to, it's not so much, obviously everybody wants to join FaZe. Everybody wants to join FaZe. Everybody wants to work with G Fuel. Everybody wants to work with the big companies out there in esports. And of course, management helps with that. Of course, we help with that. And something that, maybe not all management companies do, but obviously we do. We also help with the contract work and the legal stuff. But what people don't understand, either if they're in esports or not in esports, whether they're looking for management, not looking for management, one thing we do is we handle our clients and our talent. We handle their emails. We handle any messages they get. They forward them all to us so that they can strictly focus on their content. I thought Connor did an unbelievable job at explaining how tough it is to do what our clients do. And when management can take care of that side of the business, not only is it beneficial in the end in terms of the contracts and what deals we can get, but it lets them be free to just focus on the creative side of things. I think that's what people don't really realize that we do. We give them the freedom to just get out of their heads and focus on what they do best, and that's the creative portion of the business.
I would probably just add on to that by saying, common misconception, if you sign on with us as a client, that you're going to get everything. You can stop working. We'll get you all these partnerships and sponsorships. We'll get you signed to an org. You don't have to stream as much, and that's not true. Like, even if you're just signed with us, you still have to grind. You still have to be pulling in good streaming numbers. You still have to have good impressions on Twitter and everything along those lines. Yes, we have those connections to make those partnerships and sponsorships, but you still have to be committed to this as a career. It's not going to happen overnight. There's many people in this industry that have been streaming for almost a decade, and now they're finally just being recognized and finally getting over 100 concurrent viewers and things along those lines. And that's what you just need to keep, you know, going every day with and grinding every day. And you can't let those, if you have a bad day with concurrent viewers or you have to have a bad tweet, don't delete it. Don't delete those VODs. Keep it as a reminder of what you're trying to gain and where you're trying to go. And also another thing, probably a lot of times our clients, we have a clients only chat in Discord. I'm not sure how often they read it, but we're not mind readers. So we need to know like what areas that they are interested in working in and companies that they do want to work with. And if we get that information and what organizations that they want to sign with, we can really take that information and run with it and work our connections and work our network to try to make them happy and try to bring as many deals as possible. We have clients say all the time, like, yeah, I signed with you guys a couple months ago. Like, what is there any sponsorships or partnership opportunities? And we're like, have you checked the Discord? And they're like, well, no. And we're like, well, first off, check that. But second off, let us know what area of interest you're in, because if it's a different area, we'll go after those specific areas for you and try to do the best we can. Just signing with CarterPulse doesn't mean you're going to get all these different partnerships and sponsorships. Every single person is unique in their own selves, and we have to attack them individually.
Yeah, no, I think that's great to say. Just everyone's their own person, so just because one person signs with this specific company doesn't mean they'll fit with their content and that kind of thing. And that's the good thing about CarterPulse is we're very diverse in that aspect. So I think that's definitely great to touch on that. Connor, were you going to say something?
No, I was just going to add on to that. I've told multiple clients that, they might not be ready for those bigger sponsorships yet. They might be averaging 70, 80 viewers, looking to get towards the 200 plus to be eligible for that type of stuff. But I tell them right away that just because you're not ready quite yet doesn't mean you're not going to be. But this is a two-way street. We can't bring you something you want without knowing what you want. So as you grow, keep an eye on the companies you like, because the best partnership is one where both sides are very, very happy. If your favorite drink is Game Fuel or G Fuel, or you have a certain favorite, that's something to keep in mind going into that. Because if this is your favorite G Fuel, if this is your favorite company, favorite people to work with, it's going to result in a better partnership on both ends. So keep that in mind, because while we have connections with most companies out there, whether they're endemic or non-endemic, there's bound to be some new ones that pop up that we might not have talked to, we might not have heard of. So keep those in mind. Send it to me whenever. So when you're there, we can get moving quickly and we know exactly what you're looking for. It makes it easier for everybody. So I wanted to make sure to add that in there.
Yeah, no, for sure. So going back to Connor, what's one thing that what's advice that you would give someone wanting to pursue this esports career? As I mean, it's definitely very, very new, and I mean we're definitely in the forefronts of it. So what's something you would recommend to someone that's looking to jump into esports, either getting a job or if they're trying to pursue gaming? As you already said before, that it's very cutthroat and stuff like that. But what advice would you give someone that's starting out just now?
I think one of the best things that I didn't realize until a couple of months ago, maybe a year or so ago, is that connections can be some of the most valuable thing, and oftentimes you don't realize it. I have many friends that I met years ago through esports that are working for organizations now, and that's a solid connection for potentially my client, or to help them out on their end. It's very much something that you don't think about at the time, but when your buddy that you met 3 years ago on Twitter ends up doing something pretty cool and you want to be involved, keeping that bridge alive is very important. So I think a really important point is not to burn any bridges. Whether you're a player or working on the back end or the management end, burning bridges doesn't work out for anybody on either side. You might be pissed off, you might feel like you got taken advantage of, this, that, or the other thing. But if you burn that bridge, it's not coming back. Obviously it'll happen from time to time, but there's a pretty good chance that if you get in a fight with that player that you were on a team with and you take it personal, they're not going to want to play with you ever again. you could be one of the best players in the world, but because you said something personal, they won't even consider you. And so burning those bridges only hurts you, and it's a situation where you have to bite your tongue. You know, it sucks for now, but it'll pay off in the end because people mature. There's a lot of young people in the space, and so while you might be 16 or 17 getting in ego fights on Twitter about who's the better player or who got, you know, demolished in the match or whatever, not saying anything does better for both sides, especially when it comes to sponsorships and partnerships, because it might be one tweet you might think nobody's going to notice, but people do their background checks. They do their due diligence. So if people don't like you within the scene, it's a lot harder to be successful, and the odds are much more stacked against you. So I think that's definitely the number one thing, is to make as many connections as you can. Don't burn any bridges, and keep that going throughout your career, because you could be 60 years old and you know everybody in esports, but you still got to know the new guys, because you want them to be a fan of you. You want them to want to work with you or to pick you up for their org, whatever it may be. Those connections are essentially where you get the jobs, where you get picked up, because we all know how many people apply for every esports job. And it's pretty well known that the first people they go to are the guys that they know already, because they don't need to do 3 interviews to learn how this person acts or what their experience is. If you know somebody in there, you're much more likely to get the job.
Yeah.
Also, just to add to that, very briefly, going off what Connor said about this burning bridges and avoiding burning bridges, there's no reason to burn bridges, especially in this era when you have Twitter and you have DMs. It's not 1999 where you even have to pick up a phone anymore. There's no excuse for burning bridges. There's no excuses for not taking a shot. Absolutely not.
Yeah, and just kind of going off what you guys both said about Twitter, I don't think people fully understand. Everyone's still young, but everyone talking about Twitter, like, I know Fortnite has a little bit of controversy with what people tweet and what people say. So I think people don't fully understand that people look at what you're saying. Brands look at what you're saying on Twitter. Everyone looks at what you're saying on Twitter. So just because you don't think that anyone cares, someone deep down, whether you affect them personally or not, you're affecting what your image looks like. I've never met you personally, you know, so I'm just basing off of what your tweets are, what everything I see on the internet. So that right there, you might not think you're personally burning a bridge, but you definitely can burn a bridge just by sending out one tweet, and that could affect your brand in the future. Someone might not want to work with you just based off that fact. So that's something people really need to take into consideration, especially if you're starting off young in the scene. Just be mindful of what you say and where you say it. So kind of going forward off of that, what do you think the best resources were that helped you? And if you can answer this question, give me a top 3 influential people that helped you in esports or just in general in that kind of aspect.
Yeah, I think as far as resources go, just about everything I know in esports and business-wise, I've learned from YouTube, honestly. I'll read some articles now and then, but I worked in accounting for 4 or 5 years before I came here. My last job was a controller for a mid-sized company, and the nice thing about accounting is you don't really have to talk to people that much. So especially when I was working the lower end jobs where I was sending out invoices or receiving, entering invoices, whatever, it's very low maintenance. If I wasn't at my desk doing that, I wasn't doing my job. So I decided to multitask because it was a very brainless activity that I always said, yeah, you could train a monkey to do this. It's really not that hard. I don't know why they think you need a degree for it. But while that was going on, I had one AirPod in the entire time. Every single day, had videos queued to listen to because I wasn't happy being an accountant. I wanted to learn more and try to branch into esports. So for me, going on YouTube and getting to watch videos or really listen to videos was super useful because it allowed me to keep up with the scene while I was working at the same time. So that's kind of where I thought the MrEsports name would fit in well, because that was at a similar time where I got this tag. It was, I know a lot about a lot of different esports. There's people that know more than me in certain esports, but there are very few people that know more than me in general. And those resources helped me out a ton. And I think one of the biggest guys I can really pump is Devin Nash. He used to be the CEO of CLG, worked at Dignitas. He helped facilitate the Madison Square Garden buyout. And his videos have been extremely helpful because it's very difficult to find business-centered content on YouTube that are in the esports genre, and that's really all he does. It was very helpful, very influential, and that's kind of where that sparked the idea for agency work, because that's what he was doing at the time, and he talked quite a bit about it in a YouTube video, but he was focused more on creators. My passion is a bit more towards players. While I still love working with creators, I love getting to put the jerseys up on the wall. That's something that's really cool for me. And so getting to watch those videos and learn all that content about the back end stuff of esports, where you might find one video that might have 1,000 views, but a lot of times those are the best ones, because there might be some info in there that some people might not want public, and it's not going to get taken down till it gets big. So finding the right people that can provide you that value those resources is huge. And as far as people that helped me out along the way, there's a lot of people, honestly. I think it'd be really tough to name 2 or 3. I think one of the biggest ones is Matt Snyder. He works with he's running a startup right now that's working on getting involved with local parks and recs departments and schools to get his tournament platform running. But there are very few people that I can talk and time just flies by. And he's one of those people where we'll get on a call and I'll think it'll be 10 to 20 minutes. Next thing I know, it's 4 hours later. That happened multiple times, and we just talk and talk and talk. And he challenged me on a lot of things, and he's been very, very helpful towards my growth. While his knowledge wasn't directly applicable to being an esports agent, because he's focused more on like the gaming side of things, he was very, very helpful when it came to business and was a great resource for me, especially the past year or two.
No, that's awesome. It's pretty inspirational to say the least. So what do you think right now with CarterPulse? You've been in it for a couple months now. What do you think the biggest challenge right now with your specific role, and how do you adapt and overcome? What do you find that can be challenging on a day-to-day now that you're focusing on CarterPulse full time?
Yeah, I think one of the biggest challenges that I have is how different organizations decide to run their teams, specifically in Valorant. As like you look at League of Legends, for example, those slots cost $10 million a piece. Evil Geniuses bought it secondhand from Echo Fox for $35 million. Average salaries almost $500,000, and so when you're investing that much money, you put a general manager in place that's going to ensure that the investment is made efficiently, they're getting good results, and the team is performing well. When you have that role in place and they're doing their job managing the roster, it makes an agent's job much easier, because if they have a role that like might need to be filled, you can go straight to the general manager and ask what they're looking for, see if my client is a good fit, and it makes things a whole lot quicker and easier to work through. But in Valorant right now, there's a lot of organizations that don't quite know the best way to operate the team in terms of making changes to the roster, where there's a few teams that have general managers that control the roster, and they make my life much easier. But if you look at the results, they're getting a much better return on their investment than the other teams. And there's other organizations that have a general manager, but I think the biggest difference is their role is really more of a manager. They're supporting the players instead of managing the players. And when you try to do business with an organization like that, it can be very difficult, because they might not have the best touch on like what the team wants, what the team needs, because in those situations the players control the roster. So when you make a proposal for your client, first thing they do is they go to the players. And it might be a situation where the guy says, yeah, talk to the players. You get in touch with the players, they don't want to talk to an agent. They just want to talk to the player. And that makes it difficult to get through that, because you really have to nail down with the general manager that, no, we can save both of us time and my client and your players time if we handle this right here, and you really know what your team is looking for. That makes my life easier. But when we run into those hiccups, it's a bit harder to get in touch with them, because a lot of players prefer to just talk to other players. But that's definitely a hiccup that we're overcoming, and a lot of it is a case-by-case basis.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. So right now, what would you say the biggest surprise, something that you didn't expect would happen, or just anything positive really that's going on right now with CarterPulse that you've seen? If there's anything growing, like Valorant scenes growing like crazy, just stuff like that, like anything that surprised you or anything that you're just proud to share?
I think something that's huge for me is the growth in the past year, where I've been with CarterPulse for 9-10 months now, and I've been full-time for about 2 months. But you talk to me a year ago right now, and you tell me that I'm in conversations, literal phone calls or Discord calls with guys that are running these tier 1 organizations, and you look at the Forbes articles and they're saying, yeah, these guys are worth $500 million. You come to me a year ago and tell me I'm going to be in conversations like with those people, I would have called you out. I would have said you're lying. I would have said, oh my God, if I could even get them to reply to me when I comment, like respond to them on Twitter, I'd lose my mind. But now we're in a situation where, here, I'll move my camera right quick. We've got jerseys up on the wall from major organizations for my clients, where you talked to me a year ago, there's a 0% chance I ever thought that would have happened. And for me, getting to make those big jumps where I went from not even being able to get in touch with orgs to orgs are coming to me because they're interested in my players, and we're help making players' dreams come true is massive. And I didn't think it would be there, especially when I started working with CarterPulse. I had really big aspirations, but by no means did I think I'd be in talks with these big orgs this quickly. And I think the growth and how we're scaling is really incredible, and definitely not something that I expected when I first came in. I've been blown away by that.
Yeah, no, that for sure. I mean, that's just incredible itself for the year. I just want to briefly catch up on people that are following us, and so people don't think we're just ignoring the chat and stuff like that. So I just want to give a shout out to DDC Crowder, Boat the Goat, Made by Milk, Lil Hans, Morgan's West, Prince Morley, Verdict, FPS, True North Gaming, Bobby Souls, PB and Selly, the Cartel Esports, shout out. They also donated $50, so we really appreciate that. Big shout out. Thank you very much for that. We're going to be doing this every Wednesday, so we hope that we can get a nice little crew on board and people can really appreciate what we're trying to accomplish here. Rousey GG and King Otis, we appreciate all the follows. And once again, thank you for the $50 donation. Just had to get that out real quick before we just don't want everyone to think that we're neglecting you. We're just trying to have Connor introduce himself and just let people understand who he is and what he means to us. So, there we go. We got True North Gaming with the Tier 1 sub, so we appreciate that. Thank you very much. Let's get that going.
TNG, love it.
There we go. So, as we continue to talk about esports and stuff like that, this is a question that I personally want to ask you. What does esports mean to you? What makes you want to do esports as your job, like as your career? What really made you want to wake up and say, I want to help manage these guys, or I want to do this, that? Like, what really inspired you or really makes you attack it every day, and what it means to you?
Yeah, so I'll try not to get too wishy-washy over it, as it is more of an
Let it out. Let it out. We're here.
Esports is legitimately everything to me. It's not something that just came and went. I didn't realize until I was a freshman in college that I have extremely severe attention deficit disorder, hyperactive disorder. They're classified as the same thing now. But high school was easy for me. I just cruised by it. I didn't care about anything. I didn't do the reading, but I was good at testing. I knew how to game the system, and I got through quickly. But when college came, I realized that I had extreme ADD. I tested in the 99.9th percentile, and my scores were double those of someone with traditional ADD. And so it's very difficult for me to keep attention on one topic or subject or really area for a long period of time. I've gone through many different phases with different businesses I've tried to start up, or places I've tried to work, or areas I've tried to get into. But esports is really the only thing in my life that's been a constant from a younger age, where I'd say I've been heavily interested in following it heavily since early high school. And since then, I've gotten to see it grow as I grew, because that's not something you get from traditional sports. Like, college football's sick. It's my favorite sport, but the national championship's the national championship every year. Yes, it changed a little bit with going from a 2-team championship to a 4, but you get that every single week or month or 6 months in esports. It changes constantly. And so I've gotten to see guys go from, okay, I'm in a team house, it's unpaid, but they're paying for our travel. I'm going to make my money from YouTube and content. That's like how Optic Gaming grew up. I got to see the highs and lows of them going from a tiny team house to getting massive investors to selling to another investor group, having them run it into the ground and then go back. I've gotten to see guys go from, yeah, I'm doing this full time, I'm making like 20 grand a year. Nate Shot quitting his job at McDonald's. That's really, really cool. But now it's getting to the point where esports is getting mainstream. My passion, the thing that I love, is what other people think is cool. Like, it's not something that I'm ashamed of or scared of or like to tell people anymore, where I was very much on my own in high school. I was a bigger guy. I played football, so I didn't get shit from anybody, but it was very much, hey, this is what this guy does. I didn't get a lot of girls in high school because I would go home and play video games and follow that stuff all day. But now it's getting to the point where, you know, I'm full time in this role. And when I tell people that, they have a general idea of what I'm talking about. It's not like, what are you? Okay, cool. That's sick. Now it's to the point where I've got friends that are coming to me trying to get me to connect them with their favorite streamer or favorite player or favorite creator. It's mainstream now, so it's not something to be ashamed of. And I love being able to see that, because this is the one thing that I've been able to keep my attention, my passion, everything towards for the past 10 years. And being able to do that in a full-time position is huge for me, because with ADD, I get sick of things so quickly. Accounting was not for me. It was the same thing every single day, and I felt like I was stuck in a rut constantly. But getting to go home and play video games competitively, talk with my friends about what's going on in the COD League, and getting to see that go from, all right, we've got 10,000 viewers on Twitch, to, all right, we've got 1.5 million, and the League of Legends viewership is bigger than the MLB, the NBA, and the NHL championship viewership combined. Getting to see that grow is just the best thing for me, because that was my after school activity. I played sports, but I wouldn't go out and party. I'd go home and play video games. What mattered to me was getting the win in game battles. Even now, like after I'll get done working, I'll play Rocket League with some of my friends, and what matters most to us is getting that tournament win. It's not at the high level, but getting a tournament win in like gold or platinum is just the most fun thing for me, because I get to scratch that competitive itch in an area that I absolutely love.
Yeah. So for you personally, this means a lot, obviously. So where do you see CarterPulse, and where do you see yourself? And we'll do a year and 5 years, if you want to give that little breakdown. I also want to give a shout out to King Otis. Appreciate the sub. Appreciate that. But yeah, as this grows, where do you see CarterPulse, and where do you see yourself grow in esports? And we'll start with 1 year, and then we'll get to 5 year.
Yeah. So I think it very much, 1 year, I think a lot of it depends on which direction Valorant goes. You know, there's a lot of rumors about, oh, it's going to be franchising next year or franchising the following year. And obviously COVID hasn't helped with those situations. But for me personally, I see my wall being covered in jerseys, where right now I've got 6 of them from top tier organizations on the wall. But I was joking with my buddy about, what if my entire wall was jerseys? That's what I want to do. I've got them framed up on the wall. I want to fill my entire wall, so when you come in, there's no pictures, there's nothing hanging. It's jerseys. It's winning. It's championships, regardless of if franchising comes or not. That's what I want to be able to provide for my clients, where you don't just come here to get signed, you come here to win. Where my job might be to help them get signed and support them as much as they can, but if they're in a championship match, I want them to know that I care about them winning. Regardless of if I get paid or the agency gets paid or anybody gets paid out of it, I want to see them win and become the best. So regardless if we go franchising or not, that's where I'm hoping to be in 1 year, is to set the standard of, yes, there's other agencies, but when you go to CarterPulse, you win. When you're on the esports side of CarterPulse, or even the content creator side, you win. You win the negotiation, you win the connections, you win the signing, you win. So regardless of if you're a client or if you're an org coming to work with one of our players, you know when you're coming in that it's got that little CarterPulse tag next to it, where my favorite team is Alabama in college football. They have by far the most NFL drafted players and most talented NFL players within the past 10 years. When you pick somebody up, they're called Bama built for a reason. That's what I want here, where you know when you work with somebody from here, it's not a normal agency. We're helping them all across the board. And even if it's something where they just need a dummy to practice skill shots on in the game, I'm more than happy to do that, because if that's going to help you get better, that's my job. That's what I want here. And I want the same for CarterPulse. So when you come here, you think a professional agency that responds in a reasonable amount of time, has creators and players that are professional, are easy to work with, and nets a positive for everybody involved. And that's really where I see us in the next year. In 5 years, I I'm a very far shooting person. I'm a very optimistic person.
Let's hear it.
And one of my favorite shows is Ballers from HBO. And towards one of the last seasons, they end up with it's kind of like an agency compound where the sports players can come there and hang out, and it's, football focused, so it's like in Miami where all the players stay. But that's what I'd love to see out of esports with CarterPulse, where it's not just a one-stop shop. We'll help you get signed, make sure you don't get screwed on the contract. It's no, we're going to help you get better however we can, whether it be, hey, we need some help here, we need some help there, I just need a place to stay. I would love to see it head that direction so we can really help players with the hands-on experience, where we may or may not go the talent development route, but I think there's a big gap there, and seeing us more involved working with the top creators and players is where I see us in the next 5 years, honestly, with the passion and professionalism we have in this call alone. I think it's only a matter of time, because I think that's a big part of the issue with esports is complacency. People think, oh, I'm here, I'm doing it full time. That's cool, but if you're really taking it serious, if you have the passion, you want to be the best. That's all that matters. Doesn't matter if you're a graphics designer, a player, or a manager. You want to be the best at your job, and I think that's really what we bring here. So 5 years down the line, I see us as the #1 agency that helps with everything across the board.
Yeah, no, I mean, trust me, we're excited for it. We're excited to have you a part of it. So, Pulse, do you have any questions? Kev, do you have any questions for Connor, but just in general about anything, or if you want to touch on anything, just like that, just to kind of as we wrap this up, and also just to let the chat know if you guys have any questions for us or for Connor, just drop them down, and we'll be sure to answer them, as well as after we talk about this or whatever Dan and Kev got for us. If you have any.
Yeah, no, I would just like to take this time to thank Connor for not just hopping on right now, but for everything he's done so far. We're so happy to have him for this past year and now finally full time. I mean, like he said, sky's the limit, and we're excited that he's going to be a part of this journey. And yeah, Dan, you have anything?
I mean, not really. I mean, Connor's done a tremendous job so far since he's been onboarded with us, and now even going full time, even stepping up again. But no really questions. It's kind of an acknowledgement, and keep doing what you're doing, man.
Yeah, that's certainly to add on to that point. I didn't want to be sappy and include you in the most influential people, but
there you go.
Dan has been
don't boost his ego.
Person.
Stop. No, keep going. You're good.
No, not to boost his ego, but honestly, I've worked in esports and out of esports, and I've never had a boss that cares as much as he does. Whether it's just pointing out something that I'm missing when I go on a rant to him about, hey, why don't people do this, or why don't we do that? He'll point out stuff that I miss in a constructive criticism way. But even from the start, I couldn't imagine having a boss in a traditional work environment that would sit there and help me along the way, where he showed me the agency world, where I didn't know what was standard. I knew the core values of agencies and how to get people a better value, but as far as putting that in practice, Dan was there every step of the way, and I wouldn't be half the agent I am now without him. And that's something I'm very thankful for, and I certainly wouldn't be where I'm at now without him.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, no, I mean,
we'll
that's
never
awesome.
hear the end of this one.
Yeah. You just started something that we'll never hear the end of. Yeah, so I think that kind of wraps up the first episode of our podcast and what we got going on. The Beat of Esports, hosted by CarterPulse. And you're going to see me and Connor here every Wednesday. Kevin Pulse might hop on from time to time. But also, just a quick shout out for anyone in the chat. We are looking for a guest next week. If you wanna hop on and talk, DM us. Alan, I know you're out there. I don't know what you're doing next Wednesday. But stuff like that, whoever wants to hop on, if you got the knowledge in esports, or if we know you personally, we would love to have you on and just talk. And yeah, we're going to do this every Wednesday, and everything will be on YouTube and stuff like that. Connor, you're about to say something?
Yeah, I think we've got a question in the chat from King Goddess? Yeah. I'm not sure how to pronounce it.
King Otis.
Yeah,
King Otis, what's up? What's your question? That's the thing. Gotta have them pre-ready. Gotta have them typed up.
Yeah.
If Dan locks me in with something, then I'll do it. Oh, please, Alan, come on now. Don't give me that. Oh, Pulse challenge accepted. All right, never mind.
Fair enough.
TNG crypto too. Yeah, we'll chat. We'll chat in Discord crypto. We'll get something.
Yeah. Oh, there you go.
Super cool.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
No, that would be great. Yeah. Just this is something we're excited to do, and we just feel it gives everyone a chance to see who we are, and just really elaborate in the esports world, and it just really shows when will your KD be over 1. Damn, he's taking shots at Pulse right now. That's the question. Someone said, what does CarterPulse even do? Pulse, do you want to just give a brief little rundown?
Yeah, so I mean, Kevin and myself, we're both licensed attorneys out of the state of Pennsylvania. We obviously have more help behind the scenes with Jack, Connor, a couple others that are a part of the CarterPulse family, and it's way bigger than what you probably think. A lot of people look at us just like, oh, they can help you get signed to an organization, but we help with everything along the way. Help with the day-to-day of operations of making esports a career. Making sure that you're doing your contractual duties that are in these contracts, not only with the organizations, but also with partnerships and sponsorships as well. I can't tell you how many times, Kev, I, and Connor as well, we're probably DMing our clients saying, hey, make sure you do this tweet today, make sure you do this shout out and stream today, because these are financial opportunities that we bring our clients from companies that we work with, and we have to ensure that they're doing what they're supposed to be doing so that they can get paid. So we help bring sponsorship, partnership, organizational deals, really help bridge the gap for them in this industry while, on the back end protecting them legally, because a lot of these contracts on their face, they're very, one-sided, whether that is to the organization or whether that is to the partner or sponsor or brand that's getting involved with the streamer. But we are looking out for our clients' best interest, make sure they're not signing their life away, and making sure that they're getting everything that they're actually, worth in the contract.
Yeah, I don't think you could have explained it any better than that. If we don't have any other questions coming in, I'll give it just a second or two. If anyone's got any last second questions, we'll answer them. But if not, then
questions. So I saw one people ask. There's 3 owners. There is 3 owners. The CarterPulse was started by myself, Kevin, and Jack. Obviously, I'll leave the percentages more internally. There is 3 owners. We are 3 owners of CarterPulse. We all started together. It was actually Jack's idea, and Jack came to Kevin, who came to me, and we kind of just took off running with it. Another question I saw was, do you guys work with organizations as well as content creators and pros? And we do. There's many times that we're talking to companies, outside of esports that are looking to get involved in esports, and they say to us, we're not interested in working with a streamer or working with an individual. We would rather, work with an organization or something along those lines. So, CarterPulse has bridged that gap for organizations and brought in some sponsorships and partnership deals to organizations as well, and helped, these orgs start, expanding their horizon. And we've also helped, Johnny over at Rematch GG. We've brought some tournaments to Johnny that makes sense, and we've brought some of our clients to Johnny to work with Rematch GG. So it's not, we just don't work with creators and competitive pros, but we do work with, companies and organizations outside of that as well.
And also I saw a few people ask who we work with specifically in terms of clients. All of our clients are listed at our website, CarterPulse.com. Make sure you follow us on Twitter, Twitch, Instagram, all of it, TikTok. I mean, especially because we're starting to do these every Wednesday. A lot more content coming at you. So obviously we're not going to sit here and list all of our clients. We have a lot, but definitely check out the website. Follow us on Twitter, because that's where we announce who we sign as well.
Oh, I can't. I forgot I'm on my personal. I tried dropping the link. I'll drop it here in a sec. And then, just CarterPulse.com.
Who's the most mainstream players we work with or still work with? I mean, could we be? I guess we have to be biased because Alan's in the chat and say Alan.
Yeah.
If we want to pump his tires, aren't more than they're already pumped.
We just gotta really hone in on Alan. No, I mean everyone we work with is.
Either. Answer to your question, Alan, is I don't think anyone else did.
No, I did not. I'm hearing a lot of chatter for the lunch break, boys. Maybe one day. I don't know. I don't know if you guys are ready to hop on the CarterPulse, the the Beat podcast. I don't know if you guys are ready yet. No, so I think we'll wrap it up here. I think this is a good time to wrap it up. So once again, thank you everyone for tuning in. This is the Beat of Esports hosted by CarterPulse, featuring myself, Jack, and Connor, with our special guests of Kev and Pulse. And we appreciate everyone tuning in, and we look forward to seeing you guys next Wednesday at 3 o'clock. All right, thank you very much. Have a good one, guys.
Thank you.